And welcome back to Horse Racing Today, where Thomas and I are going to cover the international horses today and some different races and our thoughts on them before they get started this Friday. How are you feeling, Tom?
I'm feeling optimistic.
You feeling pretty good about some of the horses today?
Yeah, I think so.
And tomorrow as well. All right, Tom. So the first race we're going to start off with is which one today?
Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint,
which is race number
6.
6, correct?
On
All right,
card today, yeah.
Let's talk about that one. Race number 6. Let's put up the banner in here. I'll bring up race number 6 on the program so that we have all that information available. Let's bring that up right there. Breeders' Cup. That's tomorrow. All right. We can't bring in tomorrow.
Well, that'd be a little quick.
Well, I mean, we'd be flying in there. So this race here, Tom, is a lot of them in here that are coming in from overseas, if I remember correctly. So there's plenty to pick from in here. What are your thoughts about this race?
Well, the favorite I think will be. Oh yeah, this is our day to get. We mispronounce names too, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Aristocius, the coming out of number 2 post position. He's won 4 out of 6, but I don't know how good he's on the firm going. And he's beaten some of this group. The distance is right. That firm course I don't know about with Del Mar, and the post position's fine, but I don't know. Arizona Blaze, which is going to break for number 5. He's run with the Cura with wins, and then he placed in Royal Ascot, York, the Cura again. His prep race was at Dundalk, which is an all-weather, so you got a little bit of turns and the counterclockwise racing. And he ran a 4th, and I think that's important because it's a nice little prep. They at City of Troy used Subtle as and a number of other horses have used that track for getting ready to run in these races. Big Mojo likes the firm going. He won when he was a maiden, and that was actually a Group 3 race at Goodwood. On his second start. I think he's a factor in this race. I mean, he's run decent races.
Mm-hmm.
You can jump in on any of these you want.
Well, I was just going to mention that if we go back to Asterius, that's a horse that should be forwardly placed, I think, today. So if you're looking for a little bit of speed, that one, according to what I've been able to research and find out, and you'll also see here, Track of Leaders, it's also made all. The Big Mojo, it did finish second by a neck to the Asterius, however we're going to mispronounce it today, right? It does have a Group 2.
Our job is today.
Yes, one of the things you try to the best of your ability to make like for like. So I feel like at these Group 1 races that you want at least a Group 2 win overseas. Anything kind of below that, or at least competitive Group 1 win, I'd flag probably even more. But Group 3 and down makes me a little bit shaky.
They're 2-year-olds.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
Of course, that as well. This race, I feel like, is wide open too because all the international horses. This
is a really stacked field with international horses.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one I was going to talk about is the favorite, which is Ikora Sig, which is the Japanese horse. Last out, he broke a 23-year-old record for 2-year-olds at going 107. That's quick in anybody's standard. The only thing with him that I'm really concerned about is that he's a slow starter, but he knows how to accelerate quick, and he's going to have to coming out of 8. So anything happens in that gate or he's too slow, this is a quick field. And that, with the turns and the short stretch, yeah, I mean, you may want to just X them out. There's something to be said for that.
I also think too, Tom, when I read about this horse, Steve, seems like he's got an extra gear at the end of the race.
Yeah, he
And
does accelerate really well.
I like those extra gear horses. My only question, though, about a horse like this is you don't know really what he's faced. I know you mentioned the record in there. And when they get challenged, do they fold or do they fight? And because you know he's going to get challenged.
Well, there's no question about that. The other issue with him is he's dropping back in distance,
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you got to put some light. I mean, some of these horses will be specialists at 5 furlongs, especially in Europe. Ides of March, outside post. Took 2 to break his maiden at the Curragh. Then he won a group race at the Curragh. I mean, he's basically done pretty well on the firm and good going, so that's not an issue. And I don't think it hurts to get to Tory to ride him.
Do you think, though, that in this race, because you also have Ryan Moore, who is the first up jockey for Aidan Bryan, and he's riding on the
Whistle Jacket.
Right. Is that a tell to you, as they say in poker?
Well, yeah. I mean, he lost to Shadow of Light last time, but that horse has been very competitive. And I mean, let's face it, he's run a bunch of races. He's looked good at times, and even when he didn't look good at times, he was still running well. And guess what? Who's on top of him? That helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Shareholder, I think, is an interesting horse. Won at Beverly, went off at 12-1 that race. Then he won the Group 2 at Royal Ascot. Both these are on that good to firm going. Then he took a break. He was off 59 days, ran at Deauville. That was on the good to soft. And I don't think he was ready for that one.
Mm-mm.
This is one I really think you got to watch the odds on. If there get some action on him, I think you got to think about him.
Especially that good record right there, right? You got
Yeah.
2 good races, 2 good wins.
Yeah,
Hit
well,
that
especially Royal Ascot, where he beat Whistle Jacket.
Mm-hmm. And Arizona Blaze.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. A long shot you have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and the other one that we didn't talk about was Magnum Force. He's won his maiden. Then he's placed in 3 other races. Ran good in a group race at Doncaster. And he's never been beaten by more than a length and a half. That's pretty good. He's not getting crushed. He's right there at the end. So I think he'll be there at the end. I really don't think against this group he's going to be in the money.
Yeah, I feel like in this field, a length and a quarter could be 8th place.
Yeah, very, very well could be. It'll definitely be interesting.
You could be in a tough spot for sure. Any other thoughts for this race, Tom? Which one do you think is going to win?
Well, I do have Whistle Jacket on top. I'm going to use Shareholder and Arizona Blaze, and I'm going to use Gate to Wire on the 11 horse, which is Irad and Pletcher. And right now the odds are 30-1. I would love to get 30-1 on that pair.
I think what's interesting. With these Japanese horses, you mentioned the favorite being a Japanese horse in there, the Ikoro Sieg. Do you feel like with all the Japanese money coming in that it could distort the odds and you can get some odds on horses you might not otherwise have got?
Yeah. I've been watching the European and the bookies there, and he's still getting good money from that end of the world. So you've got to think from the Japanese side, he's going to get some decent play.
Mm-hmm. Of the foreign horses, I ended up putting Asterius on top, and I feel like that's the one. And I have Whistle Jacket in there as well. They're all available over at Guaranteed Tip Sheet. So you can head on over there. All of the picks for all of the races today and tomorrow at Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup. Make sure you head on over there to take care of that. So, I'm looking at Asterius as my winner, Tom. That's the one I feel like.
It's a good choice because R.G. Watson won this race last year.
How about that?
With Big Eves.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I remember. We'll talk about that horse a little bit later on, too.
Yeah, he's down on the list.
For sure. All right, so the next race that we're going to move off to is what? Race number 7, right?
Number 7.
Juvenile Fillies grade. Not as many horses in here to consider, but still.
There are a lot of horses. A lot of foreign entries this year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's go to race number 7. Let's talk about those two horses, starting off with, I got to find it, Tima Shaksho. Yes, we promised we would screw names up. We're living up to that right now.
That's our job.
Yes.
She's raced 3 times and took her second start to win her maiden. And then, she's well bred. She's bred to be very good on this, but she's a long shot here.
Yes.
Again, that's when you watch the odds. I think if she gets some heavy play, you got to think about it a little more. But for me, I'm going to pass on this one.
Well, it also raced against another horse in here, American Bikini. Did finish second, as you see here on the past performances, but 7 lengths is being beat handily, I think.
Yeah. Well, they said that American Bikini that day she set a track record for 2-year-olds that day.
Mm-hmm.
So that should give you some idea. I do have that is my number 1 choice, and that is my choice for this race. She went out the favorite in her debut and lost by a length, and then she hasn't looked back. She won the 5 furlong race. As I said, she set a track record. She's, both these races, she had favorable post positions, and she ran an allowance race, drew the inside, and she beat the Colts pretty handily, too.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's by American Pharaoh. So pretty versatile to run on most surfaces, as we've seen his offspring. I could see this one in the turf race. She looks really good on paper. And the one race I watched, beating the Colts, that's something. And on the dirt, especially. Turf, I tend to, that's a little different for me and the way I interpret it. But a 2-year-old, she looks pretty good.
I just wonder about a couple different things. You have the 7 furlongs going to the 1.16 miles. As the race has got a little bit longer, the distance has got a little shorter. I too think that's the one to beat in there, American Bikini. I put her at the top of mine. Ryan Moore too, riding her for the first time. Another question mark as far as I'm concerned, but I do have that one as my top selection here, hoping that it comes through. And again, I expect a lot of these Japanese horses to be overbet. Next up is race number 8. We got a few more to deal with here in race number 8, Thomas. Race
just
8.
A few.
Yeah, this is a lot of work. Is the John Deere Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, of course, $1 million race. Right at the very tippity top, post position number 1 is Lake Victoria. Thomas, 4 races, 4 W's. Will it be 5 races, 5 W's?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think if you're going to single and playing the pick 5, here's your single, in my opinion. And really the reason is because that new market race, all Ryan Moore did was shake the reins, and she took off. And she went from 3rd to a couple lengths ahead and did it easily. And when she hit that dip and they go up, the race was over at that point. The other thing to keep in mind is that track was really a mess that day, as you may remember, and that she went faster than the Colts did in the similar race. She's just got a turn of foot that's incredible.
My concern about that horse, Tom, is I feel like when plotted out the race, there's a lot of speed in his race. She'll be forwardly placed. I'm a little bit worried about fractions because of these races. I know they, as Matt Carruthers told us when we previewed, I forget what we previewed. I think we were in the Pennsylvania Derby races with Matt a couple of years back. And he mentioned that they hop the tracks up. I think the track will be hopped up. I think it'll play fast. I'm just a little worried. Some of these races, deep fields, some of these younger horses could get out there and run a little bit too quick.
Yeah, with the dirt, I agree on the fast track. The turf is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I consider that less certainly on the turf than I do on the dirt.
So what do you consider the prospects for Heaven's Gate?
Be interesting. The only thing with Lake Victoria too is, you got Ryan Moore on. He's got inside post. She's got tactical speed. So she'll save some ground over some of these other horses.
Mm-hmm.
And, if that turn of foot, if he just has to shake her reins again and she takes off in the short stretch, I don't see anything beating her.
Yeah, I actually wrote in the guaranteed tip sheet wagering guide that if there's I think I wrote it's the most probable winner of the entire Friday card.
Yeah, she's on top. She's my single
Mm-hmm.
for the pick 5. So if she gets beat, she gets beat.
Also, Heaven's Gate, we're going to go to that one. You mentioned Ryan Moore. This horse has run 7 times. 6 of those times, Ryan Moore was riding the horse. So it's telling you who he thinks is going to win, too.
Yeah, but, you're not losing anything with Wayne Lorden either. So, that he's the stable jockey also, and he rides a lot of good horses. She, in the second start, she ran 3rd to Fairy Godmother in the Royal Ascot race. She can take the lead. I do think this is one that will be on the lead. Just going to have to get over on that from that outside post. She may be 2-3 wide, but she'll certainly be up there.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of horses 2-3 wide through the turns.
No, not ideal, but again, going to make up lengths how you make them up. A shadow, terrible post position, but she's run okay. And again, this is one that does want the lead. So here you got a lot of speed coming from the outside. So you got to really think who she's going to may take out
Mm-hmm.
when they are trying to get position. And then finally, Firely Lucy won 6 times, but she's only won once. That was a maiden at Ferry House. But she's run the money, and she's run against some of these horses pretty well. I consider the Newmarket race a disaster. That was a Group 2 race. She tends to race in the back of the field. And, she's running big fields, ran second, 21 horses, and she still was able to get up for second. So even coming from way behind. Short stretch, of course, at Del Mar, so that's a factor. But one of the stats is that on these route races, speed does not hold up, and it hasn't in the 0 out of 17 races that have been run at Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup. So I don't expect speed to hold on the turf.
Yeah, I also think when you have these deep fields that a lot of horses send and they go just too fast, and that's why speed doesn't hold. You're going to see, I think, fractions in the opening quarters, and you're going to be like, why are they running 20s? You know what I mean?
21 and change, and you're like, what?
Yeah, what are you doing? You're not. I know you're not going to win, and I'm watching from my couch or my chair in Chicago, and I know you're going too fast. Never mind. It must. I don't know. Like many other sports, I suppose folks just get a little bit too hyped, right? Yeah. So who do you think wins that race, Tom? You mentioned that you're going to see.
I mean, I can't pass on Lake Victoria. And she's going to be really tough. I have Heaven's Gate, I have Kilwin, and Mayday Ready are my 4 selections.
Next up, race number 9. It is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That's presented by Thorough Care Alliance. Another $2 million race. Thomas, another bunch of 2-year-olds. So just about anything can happen here too. Which foreign horse are we starting with, since we're not going in post position order?
Well, we can go, but I figured we hop around a little. We can drive you crazy moving the thing up and down.
Yeah, it's a quick drive. I mean, by the end of the driveway, I'm there already by the end of the driveway.
All righty. Well, we'll start with Hill Road.
All right, here we go.
Make it a little easier on you. Won the first race at Leopardstown on the good going. Ran a 7-furlong race against Group 1 company, and he was 7 out of 8, which is not great. But this is Ammo Racing. They seem to be, since they've got started, they seem to have a knack of picking horses really well and placing them also. I mean, they run some Royal Ascot races. Some of them were just buys that they made 3 or 4 weeks before the race. This is one who should really like the dirt. By Quality Road, the Mare is by Lemon Drop Kid. Distance isn't an issue. We know Quality Roads can go pretty far, relatively speaking. Huge odds, but I think you got to think about the horse.
The only thing, the other thing too that is on my mind is this race is not on turf. This one is on dirt.
It's a dirt race, yeah.
And if you look at the horse's record, both races were on turf. So change of surface, sometimes change of surface is good. And I know over in Europe, a lot of times there's not a lot of dirt tracks to run on, most of which that are dirt are really all weather, and they're few and far between. So that's
but also consider the distance that run the first 2 races.
Yeah, a little bit longer for sure.
Yeah. While we move over to Shouldn't Believe, race once. Went off the favorite, won, got close to the pace. Long race, relatively speaking, for a 2-year-old at this point. Wow, that's pretty good to be able to do that. But the fractions weren't great. So I don't know what to make of the race. And
also, with this horse, Tom, I remember when we had Mike Smith on, said pay attention to how they train, particularly at Churchill Downs. That was the track we were talking about, the Kentucky Derby, a few years ago. But he said still, how they train at the track is typically how they run at the track. I imagine that's not exclusive to Churchill Downs. I see it in my handicapping too. You look through and in the notes, and you'll see in the workouts, and you'll see horses that train well and perform well at a particular track, and then they don't train as well at another track, and they don't perform that well at the track. Here you have a 4-furlong workout in 52-2. You and I could probably come running close to 52-2. That's a little on the slow side, and it's heated on top of that. So I think that's a little slow on the workout side too, Tom. That's like a jog. I don't even know if that's a jog.
And that may be an all they wanted to get into the horse, see how it was moving over the track.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit concerning for me.
Ekoro Ezio. One more, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he's raced twice. Won his first start and then faced American Bikini in the next start. And we know the results of that race. Ran 5th. This is one where if there's something going on in the workouts that we're not seeing, great, but I don't see this horse. Just off the last effort, especially.
Mm-hmm. And that workout there too, 5 furlongs in 104-4. I think there's some humans that could run that fast. Not you and I, but maybe others. Yeah, I'm not on this horse either, Thomas. I don't like that last time. I just don't know how the Japanese trainers work their horses. So I know that those fractions are slow, really slow. and they're slower than like what you see from claiming horses. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to make of that either.
And we saw that too in the Kentucky Derby with Forever Young. That was he worked pretty slowly, relatively speaking.
Yeah, he's one we'll be talking about too, right? A little bit later on.
Absolutely. Classic.
Number 10, race 10. I think there's a few horses in this one too, if I remember correctly.
Yep. More than a few.
And we'll start with the first one.
Yeah. The Shono Carnival, Japanese horse. He's got 2 wins from 2 starts. Debuted and race was, a debut race in Japan means none of the horses have run. So it was okay race. And then he won a Group 2 at Hanshin. The last race he made the front, and one of the comments was that he was idling on the front end. And I'm wondering if he made the lead a little too early. Still won. You can add distance. I don't think that's a problem. We like the Del Mar turf. And he's gonna need tactical speed with this one, and I think it has it.
Yeah, one of the funniest workouts I think I've ever seen. You get the one furlong workout there for 12 seconds. Say, all right, I'm done.
Well, and interesting, that's pretty quick when you think about it. Because quarter horses go, what, 1:11, 1:12 in those speeds for just those kind of workouts. So yeah, it looks like they were looking for speed out of the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And with that,
definitely not endurance.
No, with that draw, you're definitely looking for to get out quick.
You want to
go to 7. Seagull's 11. His only one is maiden, and that was at Haydock. But he's running the money all but one of his races. So, I mean, the 5 races he's run. He's got good speed. He is a front runner. He wants to be on the lead. But Hugo Palmer has never won a Breeders' Cup race. I think he's only sent like 6 or 7 horses over. This isn't the one this isn't the one I would look at. I would look at his other horse. I think the other horse is the better horse.
Mm-hmm. I also think when you look at the trend line here, right, comes out, you can forgive him for not winning on a soft surface. Then he faces a different company on good, wins. Then the competition starts to pick up, and as the competition starts to pick up, the placings start to fall down. So it looks to me like as the competition's getting stronger, it's regressing. It's a little bit of a concern for me on there. You'll need a bounce back race if he's going to.
Yeah, he'll have to really step up to be anywhere in this race, I think.
So where are we going next?
Oh, number 9, Waco Kid. He's a front runner. He made all last time at his win at Newmarket. It was a Group 3 race. I mean, I think he's from 9. It'll be a challenge to get out, but again, he seems to be quick from the gate, which is kind of a big deal when you're racing these American race, whether you're on the dirt or the turf for that matter. I mean, he's only missed the break once, and then he was bumped in all his races. So doesn't miss the break. I think the one is interesting. Add distance, not a problem. Coming out of 9, it is going to be interesting to see what he can do. I actually put this one as my top choice.
Bob's talking about that soft turf race there, Thomas. He does have that. You got that good win back here. Ocean Murphy on there. Seems like that's a horse that's gotten the best out of him, right? Both wins with Ocean on there.
Ocean has been riding. He won the championship in England this year.
But he's not here today, Thomas. Is that a concern to you?
A little bit, but still think the horse has got a good chance.
And we have New Century. Well, that one ran over here already. So we got some indication of what that one would do. Amori City. Or did you include that one in your international?
New Century. The only comment I would make on him, of course, his first start was at Lingfield on the all weather, and he just missed, and he was too keen in that race. But again, all weather have the tighter turns. The only place that, of course, you would not get that is at Newcastle, which is a straightaway for a mile race. So keep that in mind. So anything for up to a mile is a straightaway. He ran an listed race at Ascot, got second, but he's won twice. I mean, the only thing I would question with him is in that one, it was one of the races was a 3-horse race.
Yeah, well, and
you can't really, you never know. And the Woodbine race, of course, he won.
The other thing to note right here, because we mentioned on that other horse that Ocean Murphy was riding the 2 times he won, and in here, Mr. Murphy will be riding New Century again. Yeah. I don't know how much I put into. It depends on who all right. I don't know how much I put into jockeys changing, but when we did have on Jose Ortiz, we asked him specifically this question: Do you have the final say? And he said, indeed, we do. And that if he's going to pick between 2 horses, he's always going to pick the one he thinks can win. So, and a lot of times, though, I think they make mistakes because the one they get off of is the one that wins.
So anyway, it happens.
Amori City, Thomas.
Yeah, that's a Godolphin. Last race was forwardly placed and ran even. The winner came from the back of the field. So that's something to note. He's won at Goodwood. Again, on the front end, it was a Group 2. This is his first run at a longer distance, but I think that's what he wants. Because looking at that, and again, this is what are the jockey's choice? Take a look who's riding.
Yeah, well, look who he's riding for.
Yeah, that too.
And that's the combination right there. William Buick and Charles Appleby, they do pretty well.
Yeah, they win a few races.
Yes, indeed. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I think this is one to consider in here for sure, Tom, in this race.
You got to put it in.
And
the final one is Henry Matisse. I went off the favorite at Perry Longchamp in the Arc Day, and he was soft, and he ran 5th. The stablemate won the race. I actually picked the stablemate to win the race, and he went off at decent odds. He does have a win on the yielding going at the Curra, but he didn't look great in the last race. His second to last race wasn't great either. He didn't run straight. He was all over the track. I think the firm going, post position, I just don't see him. I know it's Aidan O'Brien, but I just can't play him.
Yeah, the thing for me about here though is that he's got the Group 2 wins pretty easily in there, and now he has the Group 1 second by just 3/4 of a length. A lot of these other ones, when they got into these bigger races, their distance at the back was much longer. So again, one of the things I'm kind of paying attention to as I'm looking through these international horses is how do they perform, particularly at the Group 1 level if they got there. And at the very minimum, Group 2. Group 3, I know you mentioned 2-year-olds, Thomas. I agree with you. That's a deciding factor in a lot of ways. But, it's one of those things that I do keep an eye on are the Group 1 races. Obviously, Group 1's better than Group 2, better than Group 3. I want to see how they perform in the better races. I'm going to toss that last race out, the soft race for Henry Matisse. Say maybe didn't like the surface at all. Even though he does have a win on the yielding track down here against lighter company, though, I think this horse is one that you have to think about personally. We're going to move to Saturday now, Thomas.
We are.
Which race are we starting in?
Number 4.
The Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. And
only one horse in there that we can talk about, and that's Frosted Dawn. This is a very versatile horse. She's won on the all-weather. She's won on the dirt. She's won on the turf. I like that kind of horse. She's basically seems to be like the longer sprint distances up to 7 furlongs than the shorter one. In the big day in Dubai, she faced California Spangle and Star of Mystery, and California Spangle went to the lead and didn't give it up, and one of the top sprinters in Hong Kong for sure. Her race in the Nunthorpe was not great, and then she returned and ran at Ayr and ran a much better race. Her last race was at Keeneland. She ran 5th in the Franklin, and they put blinkers on her for the first time. Don't think that was a great idea because they're going to take them off now.
They must not have thought so either, but she was closing at 5 furlongs, so I feel like that's a plus. At Keeneland in a grade 2, which tells me the horse can compete here. Going to get a little bit more distance today, kind of useful. But when it did face that Group 1 company against better horses, as you mentioned, it did get smoked. Bradsell is another horse that we'll talk about sometime today too, Thomas.
Yeah, next race.
Classic, right? No, it's the next one.
Next one. He's a sprinter. And
race number 5?
5.
Indeed. All right, we're off to race number 5, and we're going to start with Believing. Should we stop or don't stop believing?
Well, she has 2 wins this season from 9 starts, and she's been out of the money twice. One of the races was at Châtain, and the other one was at Ascot. But she looked good in her race at Paris Longchamp last time. She lacked room for a clear run. That's her. She runs from the back, so that's short stretch has got to be considered for her. She raced mid pack which I think was a little better tactically at the Curragh, but she couldn't get close to Bradsell in that race. But once she lost to Bradsell in the Nunthorpe at York, she ran against bias. The bias was not the post position she was in, and on that side of the track, they were winning from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And she closed very strongly. There's no question of her credentials running internationally. So if she puts her A game in, you got to think she's going to be somewhere in this money.
My concern again is when you see a horse consistently getting beat by another one, Bradsell, and then Big Eves, and then down here again, even when Big Eves didn't put in a good race, ends up finishing behind. And I don't know how horses' mentalities work, but I'm sure if they can't beat a horse 4 times, it's unlikely that they'll beat him the 5th time unless, there's some sort of race break that works to their advantage.
Well, and again, short stretch, short race, and she's a closer.
Mm-hmm. And good size field, so you're going to need to get good positioning, but you should. I'm on the rail, though. You can get shuffled back, too, make a difficult trip.
Yeah, it could be a little more of a challenge for her than she wants.
Starlust.
Yeah.
Didn't
won twice this season, but in minor races, a handicap and a listed race at York. Last year in the Breeders' Cup, he ran 3rd to Big Eves. He's won it Kempton and Chelmsford, which is the all-weather, and they're a little tighter turns, so that's not really an issue. And of course, running 3rd the Breeders' Cup too. It's an up and down horse. Sometimes it does pretty good, and it's got it better post position, but for me, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, I think too, when you look at the up and down horse, it's been alternating lately. So last time was down, so maybe the up today or tomorrow, excuse me. But again, one of the things that concerns me about this horse is that you see a lot of other horses that are in this race and a lot of bold black type, and its name behind the bold black type over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, there's a few of them, huh?
Star of Mystery, are we working on that one or not?
Yeah, well, we can just mention it real quick. It ran second last time out. It's a big favorite, but he had a lot of work to do if he was going to win. Ran twice at Saratoga and faced Cogburn. And we know the results of that race.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he ran second to California Spangle in Dubai. And again, that horse is really good sprinter.
And it's not like it's getting cracked either here. I mean, the last two races, 3/4 of a length, actually won. Maybe the first race in the United States at Saratoga, maybe one that you can overlook, because sometimes, I mean, to be frank, sometimes the international horses don't really show up until the second race once they cross the pond, so to speak.
Well, I think this is a horse that likes the flat track rather than undulations. And, again, jockey's pretty good.
And it's not that 6.5 downhill race either. Oh, that one's at Santa Anita anyway.
Yeah, it was Santa Anita.
So we have, earlier in the week on our show, we had a guest from, I forget the name now, forgive me if you're watching again, from South Africa, who said, hey, put your money on this one. You could go ahead and try to pronounce it, Tom. I'm going to leave that solely to you today.
It is good. I have no idea.
Bless
I tried. I even listened to it to try to get the pronunciation correct, and still failed miserably. He's 6.
Do you want to be the one
champion? Yeah, he's been the champion in South Africa sprinter. I mean, there's no question about that. He's won 5 furlong races at Grayville, and he did that twice at Scottsville and Turfine. I mean, his prep race in Colonial, he won by a neck.
Mm-hmm.
Just the question is, how good is he against this kind of field?
Yeah, I mean, that's a non-graded $150,000 race there, right?
Yeah,
it's certainly not this quality.
But it was to see if, again, it was to see what they had.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if they geared it down here at the end after 5 furlongs and a 5.5 furlong race.
Yeah.
Certainly the workouts are fast down in here, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something you gotta look at a little bit. But
Big Evs,
this is a tough bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And here is this one of the big, like Cogburn, this is one of the speed horses in this race. He's run 4 times. He's got 2 wins. He was 3rd at Royal Ascot, and the Nunthorpe was forgettable. And the trainer was questioned by the stewards after the race, and he couldn't explain what went wrong in the Nunthorpe. He did win the Breeders' Cup last year. That's on the firm go. He does prefer the firm going. Post position isn't ideal, but in this race, there's a lot of speed, and this guy can jump right out there. He's very quick from the gate.
Mm-hmm. You wonder if maybe in that last race, the horse just perhaps every now and then doesn't like York, because you look at that bomb there, that was at York. And then there's another bomb on the track, and it's at York as well.
Yeah, well, the other one I take with a grain of salt. The Nunthorpe one, definitely, it just was not his day.
Yeah, sometimes I think horses just don't like a particular surface. And I know here he did win at York, but 2 out of 3 races at York are pretty bad. So it's the anti-horse for a course. And you probably stay away from it.
And again, who you're playing, who you're running against.
Well, you'll be running against Bradsell.
Yeah, you sure will.
And what do you think about this guy?
He's raced 4 times and won 3 of them,
including
the Nunthorpe. He won. He was off for 329 days before he reappeared in a listed race at Deauville, which is interesting, and he won that very comfortably. The Nunthorpe was a nice race over Believing. He went to the Curra and beat Believing again. His last race was on the very soft surface at Paris Longchamp, and he ran second. But he was close to the leaders, and he will be here in this one. Again, this is one who will benefit from that firm Del Mar turf and will also need the trip. But he just, that's, with the short stretch again, as we've talked about, I think he'll be right there. He's been too strong.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I mentioned before, one of the things I'm looking for is maybe not as key in the 2-year-olds, but 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds and up. I want to see how they're performing in those Group 1s overseas. And I mean, minus that last race on soft, which I think you can kind of excuse a little bit.
I wouldn't excuse it because the winner was scheduled to go in the Breeders' Cup Mile, but she's now been scratched. That scratch. So and that horse just blew him away. And I think I think he hit a really hot horse on that day.
Well, I mean, still a little bit, the soft going. So, maybe you can give it a little excuse is what maybe.
Well, it's always going to be soft going at that time of year in Paris, to be honest.
They won't have any Frost over there, but that's another foreign horse, Frost at Dawn. Did it scratch in, Tom, or no?
We mentioned that one already. It was in the sprint.
Yeah, we did talk about that one already. All right, what race is next for us now? Race number 6.
Distaff.
Let's let me pop off to race number 6.
Just got 2 Japanese horses.
And let's talk about the Japanese horses in race number 6.
Well, we got Alice Verte from post 4. She's raced a lot, 20 times. Her breakthrough race was in a Group 3. It is the maidens, the Mermaid Stakes. It was Kyoto. It was 2,000 meters, and her last race was not a great effort. But she is a front runner. So, and been to mainly on the turf. So they're putting her on the dirt for the first time. You could get a huge form reversal and she wins or go nowhere. I'm going with nowhere.
Yeah, I'm kind of going with nowhere on that one too.
But the other one, on the other hand, is my top choice, especially with some of the changes that have happened in this race. Idiomatic not running, been retired from injury, that kind of thing. This horse is 7 for 7. But only up to the listed level, so she has no group wins. But her times have been really very impressive. She is versatile. She can go to the lead, or she can come from way far behind. So some tactical speed, I think, will be necessary in this race. I don't think you can sit too far back. Again, this is one that's undefeated. She's never been beaten. And there's a lot to be said for that.
And I think Daddy ran pretty well on the West Coast too, no?
Yeah, he did.
In case you wonder who Daddy is Justify.
Yeah, so he was pretty good.
Yeah, and he was stabled out west, right?
Yeah, Bafford.
So
Triple Crown winner, yeah. He's when we get to the Classic, he's got one in there too.
And that Justify can run out west, Thomas.
Oh yeah, that was never a problem.
The track,
but again, this horse is undefeated. I mean, the level we don't know, but she's looked really good, and her times have been decent. And the things I read on the Japanese side says she's one tough horse.
Well, we'll find out how tough she is tomorrow. We got Che Evo. Did this one scratch out, Tom? Che Evisora? Again, we won't know it tomorrow. So let's talk about that one from Argentina.
I did not write anything up on it.
Well, yeah, I can understand that because it was 28 lengths behind last time out.
Yeah, it was. I just sort of said, yeah.
Yeah. Again, when you're trying to make apples to apples comparisons, the European racing, by and large, I would rank higher than the Argentinian racing. So you got to make those mental adjustments in your head. A grade 1, perhaps, in Argentina would, in all likelihood, be the equivalent of a non-graded stakes race here, maybe even a high-level allowance race. Whereas in Europe, a lot of those horse races that are Group 1, Group 2, they're pretty much on par.
In the field, even in a small field, you're going to get a decent bunch of horses.
And you would you agree with that? Like, you have to make that mental note where they're running Group 1 races at.
I think so. I tend to think the mares have been better coming from South America, especially from Chile, because we've seen some like Baicoa. So it's not like they don't have good horses coming up. It's just, sometimes it takes time.
Yeah. Plus, you got to beat Torpedo Anna in here, which I think is not going
to be. Yeah, that's going to be a tall order.
Yeah. But you never know, right? All right. So what I do know is
I'm going to try to beat her with the Japanese horse.
Yeah, you might as well, right? That's the stake.
I'm not going to get money on Torpedo Anna, but I think I can get something out of her.
Well, let's see what we get out of it.
And again, the undefeated rule.
Yeah, well, I remember the Australian guy says, hey, you don't know how a good horse is until it loses, right? So it hasn't lost yet. We'll find out, and you're going to find out if it beats Torpedo Anna, it's a
good horse.
Yeah, what's next up the bear?
Turf race 7.
No, what I mean, the grizzly bear, because Torpedo Anna is a grizzly bear. That's what the trainer says about it. So what's next up in the bear hierarchy after grizzly bear? Is that a polar bear? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I've heard those polar bears are pretty mean. All right, let's go to race number 7, 1.5 miles, Thomas. So they're going to make 3 turns on this one, right?
Yep, 3 turns.
So you better be fit. Does Rosham Park have what it takes?
Yeah. We're going to start with Emily Upjohn. Are we?
Rosham Park, we're not going with that one to get started?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the Japanese horse. Let me get to my notes here.
Well, we're not going in order again, so I'll leave it up.
No, we are going.
I know that
I know I was on the wrong one.
I know that the goal was to drive me crazy, but
yeah, well, it's a short trip.
Yes, indeed, we mentioned.
At Rosham Park, placed in 2nd in the Group 1 in Japan in December, but his last 2 runs have been less than great. He's a dead closer, so he's gonna. Where is he going to sit? I think he's going to be mid to back. If you go on the races yesterday at Del Mar, it's been early in pace. And we did we had a $62 winner yesterday. So some prices coming in.
There'll be prices for sure throughout the Breeders' Cup. There always are.
Yeah, there is one note on this one, though, which is interesting. The last 3 furlongs in his last race, he was running at the same speed as the winner did. So he got going late.
And it must have been a pretty tight finish because he finished 10th, only 3 lengths off the win on a 14-horse field.
And that's saying a little bit. When I look at that, I always look at, okay, what is that? Just let's see what the horse. The horses won 6 times in the career, and it's not like they don't know what they have. But are they looking to get something out of that for the next race? Maybe.
Could be, yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
So you mentioned
again, this is the one. Let's see where the Japanese bettors go with this one. At least that's my opinion.
You did want to start with John Godson and Emily Upjohn, so we'll go there.
Gosden is going to go back to using Frankie Dettori on this horse. And her biggest successes have been with that man in the saddle. Ran an okay race in Paris last time in the Group 1. The winner of the race, Blue Stocking, went on and did what? Won. And what did she win? The Arc. Pretty good race. She's been in the money 3 times. from her 6 starts. She's not there. I mean, Costin's not dodging putting her in a lesser race to get a win. So, the reunion with Vittori, it could mean something.
Yeah, I agree. I think this horse has a little bit of hot and cold in it, right?
Yeah.
And right now it seems to be at least warming up. You kind of notice, though, the horse does, here at Group 3 good races together, that was more than a year ago. Makes me a little bit nervous. So far, hasn't been able to really put back-to-back-to-back strong races together. So it'll be interesting to see if the horse can indeed do that. If you look back at the first starts, the last couple of them have been a little bit on the weak side here. 4, 10 length off, 5, 3 1/4 lengths off. I'm going to want to see more. I think if the hot version shows up, you got a shot. And so maybe Vittori can bring hot back.
Yeah. I mean, certainly we know she can do it.
Absolutely.
She got caught by Blue Stocking at the Cura, but we again now, you got to weigh what Blue Stocking has done since, and certainly winning the Arc, the biggest race in Europe, says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Shahara.
Yeah, the Japanese horse. I mean, he's won good races in the past. I mean, he's won the Shima in Dubai. He won the Japanese Derby. He's won rarely runs a bad race. It happens every once in a while. Last year, he was second in the Shima. And the Sapporo Kin race, he was not as good as racing. But he's not run a lot. I mean, frankly. Ran 3 times last year. I mean, they do tend to space his races pretty much out, and they get good runs out of him.
He did finish 3rd last year in the at Santa Anita in the Breeders' Cup Turf. One thing to note, though, this horse definitely, when you look at the pace figures, looks like it's not going to get off to the best of starts, and then we'll look to close that race out. And that 102 on the back end tells me that if the horse is close coming out of the turns and heading for home, it does definitely have the late legs to finish off the job. So, and it was at 1.5 miles too. So the horse can handle the distance 6 or 7 times in the money, collecting $9 million, Tom. If you got to run 7 times and collect $9 million, I think you'd be pretty happy with that one in your barn.
I would be pleased as punch.
Luxembourg. This is another one of those horses I think has the back class to get it done, but is he in the form to get it done?
Well, he's won 1 race this year. It was at Epsom. It was a Group 1. And it was at this distance. But his other efforts, he's been less than spectacular. He's an old war horse, but he's been running in the top races for the most part. There was only 1 that he didn't. He's beaten top horses. He's lost to them. He just keeps grinding it out. The big thing I think here is the turns at Del Mar. Is he going to like that? And the rider's pretty good, and so they're not slipping them in here because they don't think they have a chance.
I wonder though, in 2024, fast, good. The only race where the horse really showed up was Soft, and interestingly, Ryan Moore was on that day too. Hasn't been on since, but I'm wondering if maybe this horse is getting a preference, at least this year, for the soft stuff and not for the firm stuff, and definitely not going to get that today or tomorrow.
Yeah, if he gets it, I would be very surprised.
Jay Abari.
Yeah.
That one looks like it's legit. Uh-huh.
This is a horse that I've kind of ignored for the Turf Classic initially, and then I went back and looked at the career, and I'm going, I've been making a mistake because this one, it looks very good in the big picture. He has time away, returns strong. He won a Group 2 at Perry Longchamp by a head on the soft going. He's won on the good to firm. He's run at Royal Ascot and won a Group 3. The only effort that I'm a little concerned with is the effort at Chester. And the reason I mention that is Chester has, well, it's a track that's dated to the 15, 30, I think. It's one of the it's the oldest track in England. And it has tight turns. And you got to have a favorable post position. And then that day he ran 3rd of 4. So I don't know what to take out of that race.
Mm-hmm.
But with that saying that, I think you're in good odds on this one. And I think you got to look at it because since that Chester race, it's run very well, especially that Royal Ascot win.
I agree. I'm just a little bit. Again, I'm looking for that G1 in that column there when you're running against G1 horses. Hasn't had a G1 race since back here at Longchamp where it didn't fire. Form is definitely, aside from that race there and this 4-horse race, well, those 4-horse races, though, I think a lot of times those short fields, you can sometimes, I think, ignore those efforts because with only 4 horses, sometimes, maybe you feel like you're being patient and you're letting the fractions go too slow and you're just leaving the other horses have too much. It's a lot of tacticalness, more so in other races.
No, it's a jockey's race.
Yeah.
It's a jockey's race.
And, maybe Mr. Levy that day just had a bad day. Maybe it was out the night before. I don't know. But my bigger concern is the lack of Group 1 competition, although the form says you have to. I think you have to put him in your exotic bets because he could win this race.
And I think since the layoff, he's come back a lot better horse. Mm-hmm. And maybe the age had something to do with it.
Could be. All right. So are we going to talk about El Insalio or not?
No, I think we'll pass on that one.
Yeah, and I think his efforts are suggesting it's a good idea. Wingspan. Our friend,
that one we can't pass on.
Ryan Moore, our friend Private Ross says that's one of the horses he likes today. Tom, and are you in agreement with Private Ross?
I wouldn't disagree with that. She has 1 win on the Good to Firm going, and it was an enlisted race. It was her first start of the season. In the next 3 races, she ran 3rd, 2nd, and 2nd. And her last effort was at Ascot. It was on British Champions Day, and she lost to the horse you liked on top, Kampala, and won by 2 lengths. I don't think 3 turns will be an issue. She was on the round course at Ascot with that last one. So, yeah, it just depends on what happens up front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, the horse does have the Group 1 effort in here. Did finish 2nd. I do like that. Maybe, a little bit of concern that the bettors on the ground at Ascot and in the Curragh maybe didn't properly value the horse going off at 12-1. They're usually pretty astute when they have pretty good horses over there, and you'll see the odds reflect that. And a lot of times you'll see them like 77 cents. It's not much but
and you scratch your head.
Right. So it's a little bit different than what we have over here in terms of that. Rebels Romance, absolutely a must consider with Charles Appleby and William Buick once again, Tom. Although
and won the Breeders' Cup this race at Keeneland 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. He's a 1.5 mile specialist without question. He had a good 3-year-old career. His 4-year-old career was but he's come back strong this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's one you got to put in your picks too, Tom. I think you can't overlook a Group 1 win.
No, I think you'll be making a huge mistake to do that.
And 2, another interesting thing to note. 6 years old, so not the oldest of all horses, but this is one of those horses that usually goes race, then take a break, like you see of late. Well, even out of late. Race, take a break, race, take a break, race, take a break, race, take a break. Only once in here before, at least in recent history, has the horse made back-to-back starts. And it won both of those races. Tom, do you think coming off a win and then going back-to-back without a break, do you feel like they got to oil this one up now and get it going or what?
I don't think so because the horse has won all over the world. So I think it's, again, I think it's a 1.5 mile specialist. I think that this is the distance it likes, and you can't ignore it. And again, the connections say absolutely don't ignore it.
Yeah, Buick and Appleby for sure. And you mentioned it is a specialist. 12 times, 9 wins. Seems pretty special to me.
Yeah.
Do we have any other in here? No, we don't. So
No.
what race are we going to next?
The Classic.
Which is race number 8, I think, if I remember correctly, is indeed Forever Young. Well, we'll start there. We mentioned Forever Young, and if the connections understood the American rules perhaps a little better, the Kentucky Derby probably would have been moved up into second place, I think, Tom.
I would have been surprised if it wasn't. It certainly was right at the wire. It was a terrific run in that race.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go back to its last race, and that's the Japanese Dirt Classic, and it beat older horses for the first time. And it did it, stalking the pace setter, and then moved up. Well, we know who probably will be the pace setter, and that'll be City of Troy. It'll just depend on, the fight in the two horses, because I think it could be very interesting at the end.
Mm-hmm. I think too that it's just going to be a lot of speed in this race, Tom. So you mentioned
there
City of
is.
Troy. Track's going to be hopped up. One of my concerns, is that you get these horses, they get out there, they get blazing, and you see this race at 1.25 miles, and you see a fractions opening quarter, 21 1/4. You better be something special and beyond special if you're going to run 21:45 and expect to go 1.25 miles and stay up there. I know it's Del Mar. I know those West Coast tracks are fast. I just don't know that they're that fast. City of Troy, Thomas, one bad race, and it was a really bad race. Aside from that,
it was an awful race. And lost to a horse that we're going to be talking about in the Turf Mile. That Guineas race he wasn't ready. Bottom line, and Aidan O'Brien admitted it. He was expecting not to have to put a lot in under him, the foundation to run, and he did not run that race. But he did okay in the next 3 starts.
Mm-hmm. And
he really has never completely extended himself.
Arthur's Ride's going to the lead, Connor says in here.
Yeah. And then they did that workout at Subtle on the all-weather, and, he passed the test.
Well, I think there's a couple tests in this race, Thomas, that this horse is going to have to pass. One, you noticed all turf races. We've gone through that already. So going to go to surface switch.
Yeah, but it's by Justify.
So that shouldn't be an issue. No. The other question for me too, Tom, is again, I think this one wants to be forward. There's a lot of them that are going to push at the beginning. I think the fractions are going to be key. And I just wonder if some of these front horses are going to just go too fast.
Possibly, and I'll throw another factor in there: kickback.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an article in the Racing Post. They were talking with John Gosden, who has won the Classic. One of 2 trainers. The other one we know all too well, which is Archon. Who paid $250 to win?
That's a pretty good number right there.
Something ridiculous. Yeah. And that was Jerry Bailey, who couldn't even French trainer, French owners, didn't understand a word, but horse won.
Well, it's all they understand where the winner's circle is.
Yeah. That was
Derma.
He's certainly going to be very tough.
Unquestionably tough, but I think probably very low odds.
He's the favorite for a reason.
Very low odds, I think, or at least to be the favorite, but I had a couple questions to answer in there. Derma Sotogate. I mean, we mentioned about some of those other Japanese horses having funky workouts. One for a long.
He's very good at that. But you remember last year he had a funky one too. Off an extended layoff, which was coming out of the Kentucky Derby. And what did he do in this race?
Well, here he actually has a good workout at Del Mar.
Yeah, and he ran second last year. So, but he tends to. He races around the world. I mean, this horse is a very good horse. But the only thing I worry about with this one is he hasn't won since he was a 3-year-old, and that was the UAE Derby.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what do you want on the money? I don't know about this field.
Yeah,
I don't think he's good enough right at this point in his career to be able to run well enough.
And yes, when you see the last 3 races, not good, and then a lot of bold black type of other horses that are in this race. Ushba Tesoro, Thomas. I think I probably got that one right.
I think wasn't he taken out?
Was he taken out? All right, well then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Do we have any others in here?
Nope.
We don't.
The rest of them are domestic.
All right, so we're going to go off to race number 9 now.
No, we're moving to 9. Yeah, that's the Filly and Mare version.
And are we going to work on Beautiful Love with 3 U.S. races, or are we not considering that one?
Well, the only reason I put, I just wrote a little quickie on that one. Likes the distance, wanted it out Aqueduct. It's Godolphin. So you got to think about it,
Yeah.
But I think the other horse is, I frankly think the other horse is the better horse, and I also have her as my top choice.
And you got Group 2, Group 3. I would like to see better runs in there too. And honestly, I wonder about some of those speed numbers at Aqueduct, because in all the handicapping we do, don't get me wrong, horses that go from Aqueduct to Parks, I absolutely love those horses. But it just seems to me,
and in the winter, you especially love them.
Yeah, for sure. But it just seems to me that just kind of looking at those Aqueduct races and these big stakes races, and then when those horses travel to other stakes races, and you want to see those speed numbers, how they translate from one track to the other, they just seem inflated to me at Aqueduct a lot. And I don't know why that is, but it seems like, an 83 at Aqueduct or a 95 at Aqueduct doesn't seem to hold up at other tracks. Just my observation. I don't know if I haven't really put it down on paper, but I do see some of these really high speed numbers. And if you're looking at those as one of your keys, and I know a lot of people just do that speed number handicapping, that's one of those tracks I'd be a little bit leery about. Cinderella's Dream Time does look like it has some pretty good turf breeding, and it looks like it's had,
to say the least,
some good turf breeding and some good turf results.
Yeah, and it's also been very good on the flat tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But she's running Europe, and she ran well. I mean, so a little bit of undulation, so to speak. She's my top choice for a reason. In her last 2 races, she's looked like a world beater, and I think at this level and against this field, I think she's the one to beat.
I agree with you too. And then you got enough early pace here in those last race there to be in the mix early on, and you got that 103, 103. Anytime you see those pace numbers up over 100, those horses fit in stakes races for sure. Win 6 out of 7, you kind of just
something's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And initially, this horse was not considered one of their top horses in the Godolphin stable, and I think that they've changed their mind.
Well, yeah, obviously they're here, right? They spent the money to bring it over. We have Liang Lang,
Yin Yang, or Yin Yang, I don't know.
10-1, Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien. You got to give that one some consideration just off of that combination. But I think recent form is going to have me looking elsewhere.
Well, she was a good 2-year-old and a bad 3-year-old.
She got the roles reversed.
I think I got to pass on her. I mean, maybe she can run better on a flat track than other things, but she's been beaten by 13 lengths. She's last at Perry Longchamp. She was last of 11. I don't see anything here.
Yeah,
worth betting on. I think this one is, I think they're just trying to say, okay, maybe maybe change of scenery will do the trick, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm not. The form is pretty bad. Content's form too. I know the odds are there.
It's not much better.
Yeah, the form is awful. So what do you do with that?
She hasn't dodged and like other horses in here in these races, she hasn't dodged the win, but she only has 3 wins in her career. She's just not consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Could she pop up and do something? Yeah. Will a firm going help her? Maybe. Will I bet her? No.
Yeah, I mean, the only maybe indication here is you had the first 2 races off the bench last time in the 3-race cycle, did come to life a little bit more in the 3rd race. So maybe comes to life and sneaks up at the end in the exacta or superfecta or something along those lines. But that form right now is not worth backing whatsoever at all.
I can't put it on top. That's for sure.
Beach Bomb. Any thoughts about that one?
Interesting horse. Ran 2 starts in the States. Has run second and third. It's race career record: 10 starts, 4 wins, 3 seconds, and a third. That's not bad. And
Tiny money though.
It was a good third at Santa Anita last time out.
Mm-hmm.
She had previous races. She's run 9 furlongs at Kenilworth. Again in top South African company. So, and she's proven here she can run with them.
Well, a couple notes real quick that I like. You see the speed number take a pretty aggressive move up. And then here it went from 1 1/16 to 1 1/4. No 2 different tracks, but still nonetheless a longer distance. Opening half here in 47-4 compared to 50-2. 6 furlongs, 111 versus 115. So not only did you see the pace improve, but it's also corresponded by fractions. I think that's a horse that you might want to look at too, Thomas. Maybe back end.
I think so. And when we heard Chad Brown rant and rave about changing the distance on this race, and now it's 3 turns and blah blah blah. But Beach Bomb just is a tactical horse from what the races it's run, and maybe it'll pop right here.
Could be. Sopranos.
Sopranos are a really interesting horse because she ran second. She feels pretty well. Nobody was going to beat her that day. But I like her. Her races. She's run in France, England, Ireland. But the most impressive race, I think, was in the Royal Ascot race, and she was in a field of 30, and she ran on the near side. She was forced inside. With nowhere to go, it looked like, and then she popped right through with an opening and won. She's had a good run at Leopardstown in Group 1, and she lost to Porta Fortuna, which we will be talking about soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a little question about the distance, but you beat a 30-horse field. You're doing something right.
Yeah, you can wiggle your way through traffic for sure.
Yeah, it means that sitting back and coming on at 12 post position may not matter.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any in race number 10 to discuss here, Tom?
We do. We have 3.
All right, so let's go to the first one, Don Frankie.
Yeah, Japanese horse. Won last time out in a listed race in Japan. It's ran second in the Golden Shaheen in Dubai after a really poor effort in Tokyo. I didn't consider it that day. So tells me, shame. But, look at its record. 17 starts. It's got 8 wins in 4 seconds. And it does its best running on the lead. Sprint race, start, critical, obviously.
And also does some of its best racing, Thomas, on the distance there. 5 races, 3 wins, 2 seconds, for sure. I think one that you might want to think about as well. The only thing a little bit for me is, when it faced the Group 1 company most recently, it didn't really show up. But in the race before that, it actually ended up winning. And then there is some black type in this race too, horses it will face again today, who did catch Remake the first time they met, but since then has been a little bit behind that. Odds are 15-1, but I think it's a long shot that you might want to consider putting into your picks, especially in the back end of your exotics.
And again, that Golden Shaheen race in Dubai, running second after a really bad effort, is something you got to think about.
You don't forecast Sunny. You don't understand which one gets an invite. And then we have Tokyo Hall is Japan 2 LR. Now we have folks joining us from all around the world. Awesome. Metamax, that one's coming in from Japan, Tom. What do you think?
Won its last start at this distance, and it had an outside post to do it. I'll go to your issue of no group wins in 5, but it has 5 wins and 14 starts. This is a stalker. You'll close. So pace collapses. He may be there.
Yeah.
But his times haven't been particularly impressive. And that's why I think there's other horses that are better.
Well, they certainly probably thought they hoped they had something. They paid enough for this horse.
Oh, they paid a ton for it.
1.1 million. I don't know that they're going to be thrilled with that investment.
I think that's why he's in this race as much as anything.
Try to recoup some of that dough.
Yeah. We got one more. And that's Remake. He got a free pass into this race. He won the Korean Sprint, which is a win you're in. He didn't face anything in that race, in my opinion. 2 previous races, one was in Saudi Arabia and the other was in Dubai. The better effort was in Saudi Arabia. In the dirt, he won that one. And he ran 4th in the Golden Shaheen. He's definitely a contender. He has great tactical speed. 19 starts, he has 9 wins. That's not bad.
No, that's workable, I think. But again, for me, one of the things I don't know why I like this, but it's I feel like when you faced up against a lot of horses that are in this race, and they tend to at least compete with you, some of which beat you, you're in the mix. I think Remake is one that you have to consider, but it's also one of those horses that could finish way off the board, Tom. And you also see here some of its better runs have been on the off track versus the fast track. Going to get that fast track today, tomorrow.
Fast and meant for speed track.
So I'm just a little bit concerned about the inability, at least so far. Only one win, but a big win. One local grade listed restricted. JB Sprint is a Japanese one, and we were talking a little bit about that earlier. If you're just joining us, that one of the things at least I'm interested in seeing is apples to apples comparison on the group races. I feel like for these horses to come over and win these Breeders' Cup races, they have to be at least somewhat competitive, if not actually outright win those Group 1. And if you're in Group 2 and Group 3 and you're not winning Group 1, Group 2 or Group 3 races in Japan or Europe, and then like in Argentina, you better be winning, or Chile or Brazil, or Germany, you better be winning those group races by 7-8 lengths for me to really think you got a great shot over here.
Well, and the other thing too is, I think is when you have a freak horse who's just unbelievable, like Equinox, it didn't matter who he ran against.
But they're also winning those.
The horses that were behind him were not, they were good Group 1 winners. We're not seeing that with this horse.
Nope. Ramatouille. You're good with the French words, Tom, so go ahead.
Ramatouille has been scratched.
All right, so we don't have to worry about that.
She's a vet scratch. She's not running.
Geoglyph.
They had a great race, though, a prep race at Perry Longchamp, but they scratched her. I saw a note come through.
All right, so then we're going to go with a different horse then. We're going to go off to Geoglyph.
We are. And that's another Japanese horse. Last time out, it ran a better race than it had been in a while. Ran second in a Group 2. That was a little longer than this race. But her distance from her past performances has been at 1 mile. Have been pretty good, but she's been better at the longer ones. So I think it's a very curious placement for this 1 mile race. I'm surprised they didn't put her in the Filly and Mare turf.
But I'm looking at these G1s that I'm circling, and I'm looking how far off that horse has been. Something has to change today, Thomas. Also, the last 2 years, 9 races, just a second and a third.
I think the distance is wrong.
I think I'm going to pass.
Yeah, me too.
Diego Velasquez. I feel like this is one you got to consider.
Yeah, well, nice win. Nice, comfortable win at Leopardstown last time out. It's on the good going, and it was off a short layoff. He beat the next time winner out, so that's always a note to look at.
Races in a row.
And it was a great prep. Yeah, he started his season in France and showed a little in that one, and he's been good since. Royal Ascot, I'd like to see him done a little better there, but he didn't. But
Mhm.
Ireland, he's been good. He's run in the group races, and yeah, I think the firm going will be to one of his benefits.
I think he likes the firm going too. Again, though, when he gets to that top competition, the performances have not been there. Maybe you can excuse him a couple heavy, 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 heavy. Maybe not a fan of the heavy. So I do think if the key to this horse is, does he take to the good, firm, fast? And I think he's proven that's his preferred running
Yeah.
footing. So I think that is a plus for him.
Well,
Notable speech.
and then one other thing to consider when they run in that heavy going, you got to have a horse with stamina.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it can take a lot out of a horse. And so I've seen time after time where I see they come off the heavy, either they really like it and they keep running really well, or they just say, ugh. Now I got something a little better, and I'm not going to run today because I'm tired.
Well, you have these 5 races to kind of on the good relative to the 3 on the really bad track. And outside of this race here at Ascot, and who knows what happened here. I mean, 10 by 30, that's almost always
let's face it, that's Royal Ascot.
Well, and a lot of times too, that could be a sign of something just went wrong, right?
Yeah.
In the race.
Yeah, just not his day.
Yeah, the other 4 races though ended up in the winner's enclosure.
Yeah.
So that tells me, and that's one of the things I kind of examining when the horses come over, was we don't get the races. It rains out, we're going to the dirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might rain, well, we're going to the dirt. That's not how it works over there. They run
There's no dirt.
What, right? So
they run on whatever, and in England it's up and down and around.
So you absolutely 1000% you have to pay attention to the footing over there, because over here we don't get but good or firm. Very, as you mentioned before, the graded stakes races, they'll stay on because they don't want to lose their graded ranking or status. But if it's not something at the high level, boy, there's any thought of rain, they're moving off the rain. Notable speech.
They see a drop of rain and then they move the race.
Hey, look, I saw a little blip on the radar. We're going to dirt. Notable speech: Godolphin, Buick, Appleby.
Yeah, going into the Guineas, it was undefeated. It beat a very good horse in Rossellini, who's not, unfortunately, he's been injured and sidelined, but he's supposed to come back next year. At Royal Ascot, he faced that horse and got beat badly. All weather, so he knows the turns. He ran in a small field of the Sussex, and that was a pretty good race overall. Ran third. He was running in the third running, I should say, in that race, and he won it. And the Sussex is a big race, a big mile race. Tried older horses in Perry Longchamp, and he flattened. He was asked to go, and there was nothing there.
Another one where the surface might make a difference, though. Catching soft for the first time there.
Yeah, I don't think he liked the going.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe the food. All right.
Mm-hmm. Very possible.
I know that they say the French food's the best, though. I don't know. And the English is not so good. I've not tried either too much. Porta Fortuna, you mentioned we'll talk about this one later. Well, now we're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about her. Yeah, she's has 1 second and 3 wins this season. Last race, she beat Fallen Angel as the favorite, and Fallen Angel's a very good filly. She ran second last year in the Breeders' Cup race, and she's beaten some very good horses this year. She won't be the favorite, but she's my top choice.
Yeah, just a neck away from being undefeated in 2024, and
she is very game.
And then she taken on the boys over there too, right?
Yeah,
and done very well.
A very game horse, and that's why I'm going to put her on top. I think she's going to win this race.
Yeah, I have her in that one as well. 10 Happy Rose. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, her last race, she was in an outside post position. She was taken back. She passed a couple horses and ran 7th. The only reason she's in this race is because she won the Victoria Mile, and that's a Group 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at her other races, and not much.
And she won at 200.
And when she does been winning, she's been winning at shorter distances. So that was kind of a freak race, the Victoria Mile. I don't know. She has big field experience, but I don't see her in this race at all.
Yeah, over there too, she's hardly bet. But when she does win,
they know better.
if she goes off to 201, that's when you bet her. Outside of that, you stay off that one. All right, so we have one race left to go, Thomas.
We do. And one horse, or there's two others in there.
So which one do you want to go with?
Well, we have the Japanese horse,
Tio Saint Denis.
Yeah, the only race he did anything in, ran second in Churchill Downs on Derby Day. It was the Ali Shibos. I think that's a grade 2 race.
Mm-hmm.
Other two races are not good. I can't play this horse on top. He's 2 for 24 in his life. Won twice. Maybe the front runners will collapse in that mile, but I doubt it. This is a good field.
And it looks like he wants to go to the front too.
Yeah,
in that race there.
He's going to be on the lead. He went to the lead in the Churchill Downs race.
And Full Serrano, you want to talk about this Argentinian horse?
I didn't see much there, so I was I didn't really write anything up.
I feel like he's got a little bit of a shot there, Tom. And at Del Mar, he ran at Del Mar, did put that 108
advantage.
The par speed figure for this is 105. He's at 108. That number there tells me he's got a shot, particularly at the track. And you got Joel El Rosario. He's got, they said, one of the best tickers in his head on all horse racing. So I think that's one you got to think about, and the back end of your picks too. And maybe, who knows, if it can repeat that 108, can find itself into the winner's circle. Mufasa, is this the last one we're going to talk about today, Tom?
Yeah, another one I passed on.
Even though it's 4 for 4 at the distance, won a whole $27,000.
Yeah, but it's not won anything. And this is a good field.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Tom.
You're gonna have to do something really special to beat some of these horses. These are good milers, and Seize the Gray is going to go right to the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else is going to try to get up there too. And there are a number of horses that are going to be on that front end.
So of all the foreign horses go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, of all the foreign horses we've talked about today, I think
we've talked about a few.
But which one, if you're just going to say this is the one, which one is it?
Lake Victoria.
And it's funny, I happen to agree with that. And that horse is running today. I said if there's any logical winner on the card today, I felt like going through all these races, Tom, and then we'll wrap up. I felt like this was one of them, these 2 days, and we've done a lot of Breeders' Cups throughout the years. I felt like this was one of the most competitive set of races that I've made my way through. You got a couple like Torpedo Anna, but even they have a couple of horses in there that could challenge them, like that Japanese horse that's undefeated with Justify as the daddy. I think this is going to be a lot of upsets over the next couple of days. What about you?
I would tend to agree with you, and I think we will definitely see some prizes.
Absolutely.
And we could get a few surprises out of a Japanese horse that we didn't consider.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I do think that you could see their odds, though, probably not be fair because of all of the money that comes in on the Japanese horses. Any final thoughts from you? Your best bet today?
Yeah, I mean, one thing people should do is, you either at the races website, the English, that's the Sky Sports. They're one of many that have some decent past performances and some balanced stuff to look at, especially with the foreign horses if you haven't. But they have it for everybody else too, because they're obviously feeding in all that information for the bettors there. The other thing is, if you're interested, go and look there, because it'll give you the odds for many of the bookmakers. You get to see what some of the thoughts of the English bettors are right now, especially on the foreign horses that they're looking at. And as I said, the one sprint today, the Japanese horse is a favorite. And if he doesn't get out of the gate, he's not going to be there.
Yes, and they're not bettors over there; they're punters, Thomas.
Yeah, that's true.
Indeed. All right. Well, that wraps it up today, folks. We certainly hope that no matter where you're betting today, no matter what you're doing, that you have nothing but God's grace, God's favor, everything today. Tom, we're over here on Foreign Friday. We were going to do it on Foreign Wednesday, but a little bit too much schedule for me. So we did it today on Foreign Friday.
We had our foreign today.
Yes, we did indeed. All
And
righty, Thomas.
we have two winners, either winner's circle or winner's enclosure.
Here's the
But
winners.
I think I'll go with the winner's circle.
Indeed. Enjoy the Breeders' Cup, folks. We hope that our international preview helps you get maybe a horse or 2 or 10 into your picks that you otherwise might not have had. Until we get back together on Monday, have a great day. All right, Thomas, enjoy your weekend.
Enjoy.
Adios.